Hello, and welcome to episode 6, part 2, this week on Cracking the Cocoon. It's another exciting week where we finish up the interview we started last week with the wonderful and amazing Brooke Spagrud. Brooke is a self-proclaimed passion-preneur. After years of marketing and sales experience and achieving success in the radio and newspaper advertising industries, she walked away from it all. The pay, the titles, the benefits, the unhealthy work atmosphere, the high stress work life balance, all of that was no longer worth it. So instead of medicating the problem, she walked away from it all. Since then, she has refound both herself and her passion for marketing, and now harnesses her gifts through her services as a social media storyteller. She finds unique and engaging ways to create content that helps to humanize a business and connect with its customers to build branding that matters. Through this, she is able to live her passions while not having to feel like she's selling her soul to the devil for every paycheck. So now that we've given Brooke a proper introduction, it's time to get cracking. Finish your story that I got you off track of so you went into print advertising, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I take it, since you're not doing it anymore, there was another jump there that happened.
Yes. Yes, you were correct. Um, yeah, so I did that, and I think I was there for just about 2 years, or a little bit more than 2 years. Um, so when I first got going with it, of course, it was stressful. Um, I wasn't really told the full story when I started that job either, and they
Oh.
poached me from a previous career. Of course I was, more money and less hours, and painting this beautiful picture for me. And then I walk in the doors of the very first day of work, and I realized that the office that I was walking into to become the new sales manager for had just gone through a huge upset, and like the whole staff left. I think there was one member, one staff member
Oh.
there that was working there before, when it was running like a finely tuned machine under the previous owner. And so that was just a lot of stress in itself, because I wasn't only trying to figure out how to lead a team, change kind of I don't, yeah, it's a whole new
Yeah.
product I'm selling, and learning all that or whatever. But now we've got a whole bunch of newbies trying to do it, and everything else. So again, thankfully, when I first started, I had an excellent, boss, even though he would say to this day he was never my boss. He was just sort of put into that office to help the transition and whatever else. But he was my like go-to guy, and whatever, to sort of help out with everything. So that was great. And so, we pulled ourselves out from a pretty dark, deep hole, and somehow we managed to pull it off. But um, print news, print advertising is so stressful, because you work your ass off for like 3 or 4 days to print a newspaper, because we did a one-time
Okay.
weekly. You work your ass off to print a weekly newspaper. And the only time you get to sit down and take a bit of a breath is the day that paper gets printed, and you know that it's gone to press and it's printed and everything is cool, because then you can sit down and just kind of take a little breath. But then the next day you wake up and come to work, and it's like, all right, let's put this all together again for next week. And it's just like, it's go, go, go. And there is no downtime. So you're kind of constantly in a high stress,
Well, yeah.
fast-paced environment, right?
And I
And so
imagine
that
that's a difficult environment to feel like you have that paper to show for it every week, right? But it's got to be a little bit harder to feel a sense of accomplishment when you just start right over again immediately.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of like the definition of insanity. You keep
Right.
doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So yeah, you kind of just throw in a whole bunch of, it was just a cauldron of different things happening in that building. So once we sort of got it figured out, or so we thought, and kind of got everybody working on the same page and kind of working together well, then all of a sudden the guy that was my boss was no longer my boss, and they merged two papers together, And then I had a new boss.
Ah.
And this new boss and I didn't really see eye to eye. He was very much a dictator. Um, I'm going to tell you what to do and you're going to do it. And if you don't like it, there's the door.
Mm.
Kind of, yeah.
Not great for a collaborative relationship.
No, because we worked so hard to build that. It was always all hands on deck. Everybody do whatever you need to do to pull this off and get this paper out the door
Yeah.
every week. I mean, there was times where I was sitting down making changes on ads in InDesign, like, and learning how to do graphic design on the fly. Or there's times where I'm out taking photos because our photographer is busy. Like, it was just always all hands on deck. And when you have that collaborative work environment, it sure helps you to get through those moments, right? And then you have somebody come in that's not so much like that. And well, let's just say I'm not very good at being told what to do.
Me either.
And I've never done well with that sort of a micromanagement dictator style. So it didn't take very long for that to create some huge internal conflicts for me, being in that and having to deal with that and whatever else that, I don't know. I don't even know from the day that I remember getting the letter being told that this was going to be my new boss and stuff. And he, with some other guy, were in my office. I fucking bawled because I was just like, this is not good. Like I knew from the moment, but yet I kept trying to tell myself, oh, give it a chance. It could be good, blah, blah, blah. Right. It just wasn't. So yeah, it came to a point where I was starting to feel like heavy chested and just not enjoying my work and coming home and being angry and all that. Like work followed me everywhere I went. And so one day I went to the doctor's office because I was having lots of like chest pains and just not feeling good and whatever. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, I think you have a decision to make. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, well, I can give you something to help with this anxiety and whatever else. He says, or you could just figure out something else at work kind of thing. Right. Because I had kind of told him what was going on.
You can band-aid the problem or you can resolve the problem. What's it going to be?
Exactly. And so thankfully, he actually said that, because I think most doctors would just be like, all right. And they just like give you whatever Ativan or whatever sort of like prescription drug to take you to your happy place and just, move on. Because I feel like when you get upper management and making good money and all these other things, I had a vehicle allowance, monthly vehicle allowance, and all this stuff. Like I had the world by the brass balls, and I was really excited to be there because I'd worked so hard to get there.
Yeah.
And then you like tell people that you're struggling with work and that you're stressed out and that you're not feeling well. And I feel like people sometimes are like, oh, you poor thing, right? Like,
right.
Oh, it must be so terrible. You have everything you want and you're still not happy. But yeah, so at that moment I just decided, well, I'm not going to take drugs because I just feel like if you have to take something to make you function at work, that's not the path I wanted to go down. And lo and behold, I actually knew of quite a few people in the newspaper industry that were medicating their way through their careers, and I just didn't want to be one of them.
Yeah.
So it didn't take very long, a few conversations with my husband, and of course he certainly didn't want me to walk away, because he's like, wow, like you're walking, like you can't, how do you walk away from that kind of money?
Right.
How do you walk away from like 4 days a week? Because again, he works 5, so he's like, oh, poor you. And like all that other stuff. And
the wonderful practicality of our husbands. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, first thing that usually comes out of his mouth is like, what about our retirement? And I'm like, well, well, if I'm fucking stressed out and whatever, like, what if I don't even make it to that point? So
exactly.
So yeah, I wrote up the resignation letter and handed it in, and was scared shitless because I had no plan. For once in my life, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have something else to go to or something else to do, or I wasn't leaving to better my career or move on to something else, right?
Yeah.
That was super scary.
You truly did the whole leap and the net will appear thing.
Yeah. I kind of knew, just because I was like, I've got a good name in the community, and Like I'm smart enough that like I could work anywhere. Like if I had to, I'd answer, like I'd answer phones, or I'd be a cashier, like what a job where I don't actually have to use. I just wanted to do something really simple.
Yeah.
And I think most of us can relate with that. You get to a point in your life, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but you're just like, oh God, I wish I could just be like a nobody, or just like,
Yep.
I just want to go sweep a shop all day. Like I just want to do something that doesn't involve my brain.
You were burnt out is usually the professional term for it.
Yeah, I think I probably was. Yeah, my limit of what I could take at that point was done. So yeah, on that last day of work, I remember hopping in my car and driving away, and just about having like a little bit of a mini panic attack too, because I'm like, what have I just done?
Yep.
And yeah, I would be lying if I told you that it didn't take me at least probably a good year to grieve that I did grieve leaving that job, because I did like it. It
Yeah.
was what I wanted to be, and it was everything that I thought I wanted. So I grieved that for a long time. But somehow, some way, things are better.
Well, and thank you so much for sharing that, because that's the other thing that, which is one of the main things I try and do with this podcast, is kind of shine a light on the realism behind the positivity of mindfulness and whatnot. That I think there's this thread that goes through the whole community of, on one hand, you're sometimes encouraged to, I know fake it till you make it has its benefits. I know even in like NLP and stuff, we do stuff where you can help be in a state where you can believe that something's already achieved, and that has its own powerful effects of helping you get there, because you're not afraid of what it'll feel like anymore and whatnot. But there's also that, when you go around someone who doesn't practice understanding their mindset as much, or being mindful, or any of those things, they have a tendency to look at you like you're just Pollyanna and you're totally naive and you're a complete idiot. And it's just like, no, it's that's not it.
Yeah.
And yes, you made that huge choice, and it was hard, and you had to grieve it. You didn't just like, oh well, I'm sure something else better will come along, go home completely unaffected. Which is
Although
the
I
way
wish I
that
had that sort of way of looking at things, because I think it
right.
would have been a lot easier.
And I think that's what a lot of us are striving for, maybe, is to care that little about things that we can't change, right? Go back to that old great thing about, power to change the things we can, wisdom to know the difference, all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not always sunshine and kittens and everything to do
No.
the right things for your health or your mindset.
Well, and everybody's different. And so there are people out there that, they are happy to just have a simple job, and, at the end of the day, they go home and they can turn work off, and they don't have any responsibility or anybody like relying on them and all that stuff. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with that. And I just am the kind of person that like, I always have to feel like I'm doing something, contributing something, building something. I honestly don't know where that came from, but that just, yeah, I've always had to be the best version of myself, or I don't know. And maybe that's society, me worrying about what society thinks about me to a certain degree, but like I've always had to be that. I don't know how else to explain it, but
Well, and I get it. And I feel like again, it's so hard that's one reason it's so hard for us to compare against each other, because everybody is different, and it is different for everybody. So that's two layers there of like 1,000 layers. And another adage that I'd love for us to take back for the positive is the whole, like, it takes all kinds thing. I usually hear people say that
Mhm.
when they see someone do something totally wacky and ridiculous or something, like, "Ugh."
Totally.
But I think it could also be a positive thing too. Like you said, there's people who, we need people until we're all replaced by robots anyways to do some of those other jobs. I've been a receptionist. It has its perks. It has its
Oh, it's
downsides.
a yeah. I'm certainly not downplaying that as
Well,
being like a simple
no.
job, because depending on where you're working, if the phone's ringing off the hook and you're the main hub, like that's a very important, can be high stress situation too.
Absolutely. But it might not be where you get your sense of fulfillment. And I think that's what you might be talking about there. That's what it's been
Yeah.
for me, anyways, of just like, okay, this is good, but I feel this internal urge, that sitting still vibrating thing we were teasing about earlier, of just like, I feel like I'm going to explode if I don't do
Yeah.
something else. And that's that calling that people talk about. And unfortunately, they don't like call and give you all the details. You just feel
Yeah.
pulled, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't always work the first time or the third time or the seventh time, but you just know that you need to be doing something else. And I think part of that too can be that you need to get the hell out of the way so that somebody else can do what you're doing right now, because that's their thing and you're taking it up. And I talk about that with people about romantic relationships too, of staying in one where you guys are both unhappy. You're not making
Right.
space for you guys to meet the people you'll actually be happy with. It's same thing
That's
about
true.
jobs, same thing about all kinds of other things. But it's so hard to walk away from something that you loved at one point, and like your job is a perfect thing as an example, that it changed in a way that was not mendable for you and was not livable for you. It
Yeah.
doesn't change the fact that prior to that new boss, as hard as it was, you still loved it. you know
Well, I either loved it or I had convinced myself that I loved it,
True.
because that's where I thought I needed to be, right?
Right.
So, but either way, at the end of the day, yeah, I had to move on and I had to get out, because it was no longer serving me the way that I kind of wanted it to.
Yeah.
And I think I even had said in my bio that I sent to you, it did literally become like every time I got a paycheck, I felt like I was selling my soul to the devil,
Mm.
because it
Yeah.
was like the the money thing was no longer a motivation or uh, a sense of happiness for me. It had just literally gotten to the point where even if they would have offered me twice as much money, I would have been like, I can't, like, I just can't do this anymore. So, but thankfully that happened again. Of course it was a little stressful in this house for a little while, because, not having a job and, husband wondering what the hell I do with my day
Right.
all the time. But seriously, like, again, you can keep your day pretty busy doing a bunch of stuff
Oh yeah. There's
around the
never a
house.
shortage of things to do.
No, 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 no. And I needed that time to decompress a little bit too. So thankfully, we were pretty smart financially, and so I was able to do that. I was able to take the time to step back and see what the hell I wanted to do. And
Awesome.
I took a little job with a neighbor who we were good friends with, just for a few months to help them out, which was kind of, I considered, my mindless job for a while,
Yeah.
doing like filing and simple bookkeeping stuff. So that was cool. So I was able to do that and still bring in a little bit of money and feel like I was contributing to society. But yeah, while I was doing that, I realized that I need to do this on my own, and sat down with a long-time client of mine in the advertising world, and had coffee with him one day. And I shared with him, I was like, Kate, his name is George. I'm like, George, I got two ideas. I got two business ideas. I'm either going to open like a little coffee shop, K-cup, like retail outlet, because that's when like the Keurigs and stuff were like
Yeah.
just kind of hitting the ground, and everything was popular with that. I was like, or I'm going to buy a laptop and I'm going to do this marketing thing and stuff on my own. And he's like, well, if you do the marketing thing, he's like, I'll be your first client. And I was like, all right. So screw having a retail outlet, and because the startup costs are significantly less just to buy a laptop
Yeah.
and get going. And so that really is the story of how it all began, is that I had one person who believed in me and was like, well, I'll help you get started. I need what you're offering. So let's help each other out. And that's what I did. And then it just kind of grew from there. And I
Nice.
don't know. I think this July, I think I'm in I don't know, year 4 or 5. Like I can't even, I don't even keep track.
Well, that congratulations though, because I feel like that's a mark of it's a different kind of mark of success that you're not counting the days and trying to track and prove something. The work in and of itself is enough fulfillment that it's not like you have to hit some kind of mile marker or something there.
No, I probably don't watch the numbers as close as I should. I think I need to get back, I need to get back into that a little bit because I am very much a goal-oriented, focused person. And so there's nothing wrong with setting yourself goals every month to hit and whatever
True.
else. But yeah, it's become more about what I do, um, and how I'm doing it than what I'm doing, I guess. I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes any sense, but yeah, some days I feel like I don't get anything accomplished work-wise because I'm so busy doing house stuff or running, doing school stuff with my daughter or whatever else. And then other days it's all business and no pleasure. But like
Well,
any entrepreneur will tell you though, like this kind of not this kind of stress, but this kind of like punishment of having the good days and the bad days being an entrepreneur. Um, I somehow can handle this way better than being in an environment or stuck in a job that I wasn't happy with.
yeah. Well, and I
Mhm.
think for me as an entrepreneur, it comes back to the upside and downside of the only one telling me what to do usually is me.
Mhm.
And that goes a long way. So that, and for me maybe it's having not having that person to, oh gosh, what's the word, to transfer off on either. Sometimes we
Yeah.
can have that frustrating coworker, we can have that frustrating boss or whatever else, and we can just chuck it all in that direction and be like, well, whatever. And you're doing a great job of, you have it separated out and whatnot of, it was also a good decision for you for these reasons. And it wasn't all on that. But when you are your own boss, then you are the one that has to deal with company morale. You are
Yeah.
the one that has to deal with, whether or not you're being too dictatorship or authoritarian or whatever
Yeah.
else with yourself. And then like you said there, you traded in one full-time job for two full-time jobs of being home and also having your own business, which as an entrepreneur, really you traded in for like 100 full-time jobs because you have to do everything, right?
Oh yeah. I'm chef, cook, and bottle washer too,
Right.
kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's a different kind of stress and it's a different kind of, I don't know, it's a different kind of way of life, that's for sure. And I'm still trying to get out of the old traditional ways of thinking about a lot of stuff, like, oh, I need to work from 8 till 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever, right?
Right.
Um, I should be doing this or doing that. Or I don't know, like there's just so many things that I know has come from working in the corporate world or or the real world as I call it. Because sometimes I feel like this isn't the real world. I just go down to my basement and do my work, and like sometimes I don't even have to get dressed if I don't feel like it, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it is hard to kind of get out of that mindset, but
Well, and it is a funny thing too that one of the reasons we leave the corporate world or the real world, as you call it, which I love,
yeah.
is to get away from some of that stuff. But then as we're
But
trying
then
to
you're
build our business, so we're just like, all right, well, the only framework I have is that stuff. And so I pull from there until I know what else to do.
Yeah, or you think, oh, I want to work from home and I want to run my own business so that I can do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And then you're sitting there on the couch one day because you don't feel very good and you're like, oh, I should go downstairs and do some work. Like
Right.
I need to work, I need to do work, I need to do something or whatever, instead of being like, allowing yourself that time to sit on the couch and watch a Netflix show or
Yep.
something because you're not feeling well. Whereas when you're working, it's like, oh, I'll just call in sick. Like, I don't know. So sometimes I think I traded in a dictator, um, bossy boss for another bossy boss. It's just this boss I seem to be able to put up with better because sometimes she lets me have ice cream or sometimes she lets me work in my yoga pants or whatever, right? So
Right. Well, there are interesting caveats to being an entrepreneur that, you know, I, as you were teasing about even with your husband earlier, where they wonder what we're doing when we go to do this kind of stuff or what we do all day or
yeah,
whatever else. It's like there are a lot of people I think who maybe haven't ever done it and don't understand that on a day that I want to call in sick,
yeah,
I don't just call one boss and tell them I won't be in today. I might have to call 4 clients and
yeah.
explain to them that we need to reschedule.
Or worse
Yeah.
yet, you maybe don't necessarily have anything like booked that day, but even just calling in sick, it's just your own mind. It's
Yep.
yourself you got to deal with. The whole day
Exactly.
you're like, oh, I should be working. I should be doing this. I should be doing that.
Yep.
So,
And it
but
takes practice to be able to be in a place, and I'm still practicing it, where you can put on your boss hat and give yourself the day off.
yeah,
And be
exactly.
like, no, you get out of here with your sniffly nose
Yeah.
and you go home until you feel better.
I'm getting a little bit better with that. Each day, each month I'm getting better with that, where I'm allowing myself to, you know what, I don't really have anything on the schedule today, so I'm going to do what I need to do, which is usually cleaning or something. It's not
Right.
glamorous and glorious like people think, but yeah, I do feel like people, when you tell people you work from home, they're like, "Oh, that must be so great." And you're like, "Yeah, it really is, because now I do the laundry as I'm walking by it to go to my office, and then I go upstairs to make something to eat. So then I also do the dishes.
Right.
And then I go to the bathroom and I realize that the living room needs to be vacuumed. So I do that. And then there's laundry to fold. And then somebody forgot their lunch at school. So I got to take them that. Um, like the list just goes on and on. And so you're trying to create a business or run a business and create an income,
Yep.
but you're also doing all this other stuff because everybody's like, oh, you work from home. Like, yeah, that's right. I lay on the couch eating bonbons all day, and
Yep.
life is wonderful. But
Well, and I tease often that I'm just like, I think people think that I just goof around on Facebook all day as my job, but you must really feel that way because your job actually
yeah,
takes place on Facebook.
sure enough, I actually have told people that before. I'm like, I get paid to play on Facebook all day. What do you do?
Well, that's a great elevator pitch. I like it.
yeah, yeah. I'm pretty grateful for what I have, and I hope that I can, I don't know, keep doing this thing, whether it's on one platform or another, or one way, shape, or form. Um, I really don't feel like I could ever get a real job ever again.
Well, then that must mean that you're doing something right in what you're doing here. So tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do for your clients and for your business right now.
Well, the best way that I kind of can describe it is that I'm a social media storyteller. So I work with businesses and entrepreneurs that need help with their outward messages on social media, and most specifically Facebook. Facebook is my wheelhouse, and so I work on behalf of other people with their marketing, and I help them to create content and post on their page regularly, and create opportunities for them to sell their products and services, and build relationships and have conversations with people all day long, basically. So yeah, I do play on Facebook all
Amazing.
day.
So you do the part of the job that for a lot of people is just painful and something that they can't even begin to manage, and you do it for multiple companies at once.
Yeah, and I love it, and I'm like blissfully happy doing it too. I love creating images and creating videos, and yeah, and creating posts and things like that that get people talking, and whatever else. And of course, at the end of the day, when I've hit the nail on the head of the moving target, and they make a sale, or they sell their product off their shelves, or whatever the heck where our
Yeah.
goals that week or that month or whatever, then that's really cool too. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say that must be kind of a fun, exciting part. I could see it being for me anyways, that you have a bunch of different kind of measurements of different types of success there. Different clients, it's going to be different things. And so it can just come from every angle of whether it's just engagement or whether it's a sales thing or whether it's different kinds of sales. That's really exciting.
Yeah, but I have to create my own excitement about it most of the time. because I don't know why, but for some reason, a lot of times clients won't ever tell you, oh, that thing you did, that was awesome. Or like, you don't
No.
always get that feedback. So I have to look at the analytics and I have to
Yeah.
finish the story and put the pieces of the puzzle together to know that I'm doing things and doing things right. But they also keep me on board. So like I must be doing something right or they wouldn't
Right.
they wouldn't keep me. Um, but
Well, and there's that wonderful kind of rebound understanding there too of it's a good chance for us to give ourselves props or a pat on the back because there's a good chance that no matter how well you're doing and helping them out or how well things go for them, we've also been in that shoe as the business owner of you always think what your next step is and how much better you could do. And you don't always take the time to sit and party about the fact that you hit
Mhm.
this goal. A lot of times we're already on to the next. And so it's a good reminder when maybe that person that could be a little bit more excited about the results you've helped them achieve is already on to the next, that it's a good time for you to stop and be proud of yourself too. So I love that.
Yeah, well, we have to give ourselves our pats on the back when we can, because we often forget to do
Yeah.
that as an entrepreneur. But also at the end of the day, I know that my clients are busy running businesses and doing what they do. That for the most part, what I do is almost like Greek to them. And, they're just kind of like, I'm not really sure what you do, but just do that thing. Like, just do this, just deal with it. And yeah, don't
I'm not
only
sure
come
what you do, but I'm sure that it's vital to my business. So please do it.
well, I hope they know a little bit more in depth than that,
Yeah.
um but yeah, they get somebody like me on board to help them because that is not their strength and they're
Yeah.
outsourcing that, so that they can focus on whatever their strength is, running their business and dealing with employees and clients and stuff in person.
Exactly.
I just get to be like that little fly on the wall that works in the background, and I get to exercise my creative muscles and have fun in that way. And I get to do it all while wearing a big messy mom bun and sweatpants and whatever else too. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and I know you were kind of kidding there, but it's good for people to know that they don't have to know how to do your job in order to hire you to do your job for them. Because I know when I go to look for help to outsource certain things, I get that type A thing about it for myself of like, well, I need to know enough to know if
Mm-hmm.
they know what they're doing, which is probably good. But
Yeah,
then I
you
go
need to
too
have.
far and it's just like, well, I need to try and do it myself for a while before otherwise I won't know and I won't appreciate and no, just don't worry about it. Give it to
Yeah,
Brooke.
you did say something that I feel is true too. I really think that you should have a good general awareness or general understanding of what you're hiring somebody to come in and do. Just because there are people out there that aren't with the utmost integrity and stuff and will screw
True.
you however they can. So I really enjoy working better with people who understand it, understand social media, understand Facebook, understand all the time, effort, and nuances and stuff that kind of go into it, and don't really want to do that or don't have the
Yeah.
time to do that. It really needs to be a partnership in order for it to be successful. As a business owner, they need to be the leader of their own business, and I'm like their marketing partner,
There
where
you go.
we share ideas back and forth, and I basically help to visually bring that to light, right? Or
Yeah.
make it like tangible, even though stuff on social media isn't really tangible, but you know what I mean. Like,
Right.
it's all about connecting their bottom line business plans with what I can do from my marketing side of
Yeah.
things. So,
Well,
mhm.
and it's such a valuable thing too, because even if you have the technical skill and you do understand Facebook and you do understand all of those things, something about having someone else, well, and I get this in my field anyways, we can sit there and give ourselves advice all day, but when you
Mhm.
sit down and you talk with someone else and you try and explain it to them instead, oftentimes my clients are their own best counselors And I tell them that, otherwise,
Mhm.
and so I think it's probably similar in what you do too, of that even if they're capable, even if they have the time to do these things and know how, there's a huge value in having someone else that can sit down with them and help them take it and like you said, I don't know, repackage it into really being on point, because we can get so in our own heads that it's hard to say what we really want to say instead of the way that we've been processing it.
Yeah, we all need to just play to our strengths
Yeah.
and outsource to our weaknesses, and that's what will make us happier, um, and whatever. And so, because of that, I've created a business playing to my strengths and my passions, and that is marketing and creating and connecting and being social and like all of those things. I love putting together something that's maybe somebody else's idea, or they're like, hey, I want to do this, and then I put it all together for them in a way that
Yeah.
maybe we create like a kick-ass video or like something else, right? And just working in a partnership that way. But yeah, we each have to kind of play to our strengths. So thankfully, because of that, I have a career or a job.
Well,
Right,
and
I get to geek out and do what I love, and other people get to focus on what they love. And
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
And it's no small amount of kudos and pats on the back to you for doing all of the hard work, obviously, that you've gone over here today, to find what you really love underneath all of the other trappings, right? And to
yeah.
be able to embrace that and to know those things. That's a lot of work and a lot of um, just amazing brilliance on your part to be able to segment that out. So
Oh, well,
kudos.
thanks. I'm just I'm just like everybody else. I put one foot in front of the other. I'm just trying to get from one day to the next as well, but thanks.
You're very welcome. And thank you again so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. And I absolutely know that all of the stuff that you've shared today and the discussion that we've had is going to be really valuable to a lot of people out there who are earlier on in this process and still trying to find their way through to what they love, or maybe later on in this process and trying to feel like it's okay that they're doing what they love, even if it doesn't pay as much, or even if people look at them and think they don't work all day.
Yeah.
And so thank you for helping me bust some myths, regain some adages to positivity, and just being an awesome first guest here on this
Oh, well, you're welcome. I always like to be number one. So
segment.
I guess that I got to do that today. So thanks again for having me and letting me share a little bit about my story or whatever. And, anybody reach out whenever you want, or you and I can connect again and talk. I'd be more than happy. I'm kind of an open book.
Awesome. I appreciate it, and I can absolutely foresee having you back in the future. Uh, otherwise, I'll talk to you all the time anyways, too.
Yes. We'll
All
still be
right.
friends.
Exactly. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Cracking the Cocoon, brought to you by Embrace Your Passion with Mentoring Metamorphosis. It's listeners like you that make my day when I look at those statistics and know that you're out there and what I'm saying is hopefully getting through to you. Feel free to check out my website, embraceyourpassion.co, for additional episodes of Cracking the Cocoon, for more information about what I do. Some other great things, there's a few fun freebies on there. You could join my email list and get some tips and tricks delivered directly to your inbox every so often, or just check out whatever new is popping up on there. Have an excellent rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next episode.